I'll be a good girl, she cried, begging to enter the human's bunker, escaping a deadly blizzard. Beginning. The wind howled like a predator outside, carrying shards of ice sharp enough to cut through exposed skin. The blizzard had swept across the frozen waste of Titan. 9 without mercy, swallowing entire settlements, burying roads, and turning the once bustling mining outpost of Havers Ridge into a graveyard of snow and silence. Ethan Voss sat alone in his underground bunker, fingers tight around the handle of his battered rifle. His bunker was carved from the stone beneath the ice plains, reinforced doors, a heating reactor salvaged from old mining equipment, shelves stacked with rations, and most importantly, air filters that still hummed steadily despite the years. He didn't trust anyone, not after the fall of the colonies. For months now, he lived like a ghost beneath the storm, emerging only when the skies calmed to scavenge supplies from abandoned shuttles and half-buried outposts. He had heard the broadcasts about rescue fleets and government shelters, but he knew lies when he heard them. No one was coming. Not for Titan 9, not for him. The storm outside rattled the heavy steel doors again. Ethan stood, jaw tense. That wasn't wind this time. That was knocking. 3 rapid strikes. Then silence. He froze. No one sane would be out there. Not in this storm. Unless they were desperate or inhuman. He moved the observation slit, pried open just enough to peer outside. At first, all he saw was white. Then movement. A shadow, staggering against the blizzard's fury. A figure pressed close to the reinforced hatch, their shape blurred by frost and rags. Please. A voice shrieked over the wind, high-pitched and trembling. Please, let me in. I'll be a good girl. I'll behave. I swear. The words struck him like a hammer. Human words. But not quite. The voice carried a strange lilt, an unnatural resonance that made the hairs on the back of his neck rise. Ethan's hand tightened on his rifle. Aliens. He had heard of them. The Nyari, shape-changers, scavengers, creatures that slipped into human settlements wearing stolen faces. During the early chaos, they'd been blamed for sabotage, murders, even destruction of 2 colony domes. Most humans shot them on sight now. But the figure outside, she was crying, sobbing like a terrified child. Please. The voice cracked again, weaker this time. The cold is burning me. I don't want to die out here. Please. Ethan cursed under his breath. The bunker's door was strong, but it wasn't invincible. If she froze to death against it, her body would block the entrance and scavengers, or worse, would come sniffing. He toggled the intercom instead of opening the hatch. Take off your hood, he barked. Show me your face. There was hesitation. Then the figure obeyed. Frost-crusted fabric fell away, revealing a face pale as snow, eyes luminous in the dark. Too luminous. Her features were delicate, almost doll-like, framed by tangled hair that shimmered faintly blue under the bunker's outer lights. She looked young, fragile, not entirely human, but not the monstrous predator the broadcast described. I'm not your enemy, she said hoarsely, lips trembling. I just want to live. Ethan stood there for a long moment, caught between suspicion and a sliver of pity he thought he'd buried years ago. Finally, he keyed the door locks. The storm screamed as the outer door slid open. The girl collapsed the moment she crossed the threshold, snow and ice clinging to her body like a second skin. Ethan shut the door fast, sealing out the blizzard before it could swallow his warmth. She lay shivering on the steel floor, arms wrapped around herself. Her clothes were little more than tattered fabric and scavenged insulation, useless against Titan IX's endless winter. Ethan kept his rifle trained on her as he tossed a thermal blanket her way. Wrap up, and stay where you are. She nodded frantically, cocooning herself in the blanket, rocking slightly as warmth began to seep into her trembling limbs. For several minutes, only the crackle of the heating reactor filled the silence. Then she looked up at him, her glowing eyes dimmed with exhaustion. Thank you, she whispered. You saved me. Don't thank me yet, Ethan muttered. I still might throw you back out. Her lips parted as though to argue, but she bit the words back. Instead, she sat quietly, clutching the blanket like a lifeline. He studied her. Up close, the alien traces were clearer, the faint shimmer of her skin, the way her pupils adjusted oddly to the bunker's artificial light. She was Nyari, no doubt about it. What do you want? He asked finally. Her voice wavered. Food, shelter, a chance to survive the storm. Why should I trust you? Because... She hesitated, then dropped her gaze. Because I don't have anyone else. My clan, they abandoned me. Said I wasn't strong enough to keep up. They left me to die out there. Ethan narrowed his eyes. It could be a lie. Nyari were tricksters, according to every human he'd ever met. But there was no deception in the way her voice cracked, or in the tears that froze on her cheeks before melting in the bunker's warmth. What's your name? He asked. She blinked, surprised by the question. Sarah. All right, Sarah. He lowered the rifle, though not entirely. You can stay. For now. But the first time you try anything, stealing, lying, whatever, I'll put a bullet between your eyes. Clear. She nodded quickly. Clear. I'll be good. I promise. The next days passed in uneasy silence. Sarah kept to herself. curling near the heating vents like a cat, occasionally humming softly in a language Ethan didn't know. She ate sparingly from the rations he provided, always asking permission before touching anything. Ethan watched her warily, waiting for the trick, the betrayal. But none came. Instead, he found himself noticing things. The way her luminous eyes softened when she looked at the firelight. The way she smiled faintly after each meal, as if grateful for even stale protein bars. The way her voice carried a strange, haunting beauty when she whispered to herself in her alien tongue. On the fourth night, when the storm finally began to weaken, Ethan found her staring at the sealed observation slit. "Why are you still here?" he asked bluntly. "Storm's dying. You could run back to your clan if you're lying." She shook her head slowly. "They don't want me. They never did. I'm different. Too human," they said. "Too weak. That's why they left me behind." Ethan frowned. "Too human?" Sarah hesitated, then tugged down the blanket to expose her shoulder. Beneath her pale skin, faint lines glowed, a lattice of bioluminescent veins pulsing gently, almost like circuitry. "I was born half-blood," she admitted. "My mother was Nyari. My father human." Ethan stiffened. The idea wasn't impossible. The war had thrown species together in strange ways, but it was rare and dangerous. "Your own people hate you for it." "They fear me," she corrected softly. "They say I don't belong to either world. But I don't want to belong to them. I just want safety. A place where I don't have to beg for my life every day." Her words cut deeper than he expected. He knew that feeling of being discarded, abandoned, forgotten by the very people meant to protect you. He saw in her reflection of his own exile, and against his better judgment. Something in him began to thaw. Conflict. But Titan, 9 was not kind enough to let them keep their fragile peace. 3 days after the storm cleared, Ethan went out to scavenge in nearby outposts for fuel cells. Sarah begged to join him, but he refused. Too risky. He left her behind with strict orders to stay hidden. When he returned, dragging a sled of supplies, his heart sank. The bunker door was open. Inside, the shelves had been ransacked, food scattered across the floor, and Sarah was gone. For a moment, rage flared hot. He had trusted her, and she had betrayed him, just like he feared. But then he saw it. Blood. Drops leading from the entrance deeper into the snowstorm outside. Not his. Not human. Bioluminescent blue. Ethan's grip tightened on his rifle. He followed the trail. Half a mile from the bunker, he found them. 3 Nyari warriors, towering and cruel, dragging Sarah through the snow by her arms. She struggled weakly, blood glowing where they'd struck her. "Traitor." One of them snarled in their guttural tongue. "Filth. You thought you could hide with humans? You shame us." Ethan didn't think. He raised his rifle and fired. The first shot dropped one of the warriors instantly. The others whirled, hissing, blades glinting in the pale light. The fight was brutal, short, and bloody. Ethan killed one, wounded the other, driving it limping into the storm before it vanished. When the silence returned, he rushed to Sarah. She was trembling, clutching her side where a blade had cut deep. Her luminous eyes widened when she saw him. You came for me," she whispered. "Of course I did," he muttered, hauling her up. "You're mine to protect now." Ending. Back in the bunker, Ethan treated her wound as best he could, bandaging the glowing flesh. She lay still, breathing raggedly but alive. For a long time, neither spoke. Only the low hum of the reactor filled the air. Finally, Sarah's hand brushed his. Weak, but deliberate. "I told you I'd be good," she murmured. "I told you I just want a place to belong." Ethan swallowed hard, the walls he'd built around himself crumbling one by one. "You've got it," he said quietly. "As long as I'm alive, you'll have it." Her eyes closed, relief washing over her face. Outside, the storm began to rise again, burying the world in ice and silence. But inside the bunker, 2 exiles, one human, one not, found something neither had dared to hope for: family. And in that frozen wasteland, it was enough.